really excited to be spending the year with you, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you all better, and getting to feel like I'm back in Wisconsin again. My partner and I lived for 6 years in Madison while I was director of music ministry at James Reed there, one of the smaller congregations that we have in Madison, and it's nice to be back in Wisconsin again. I spent the last year watching you from afar on television and wondering and being amazed at the energy and the spirit and honestly the anger that was present in this state, and wished I were here with you. I have recently returned from a year in Carmel, California, where they don't have glorious fall weather like this, just so you know. It's this way all year round. And I am a student at Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago, just like Christina before me and Aaron before her. And I'm really glad to be here. Over the year, you're going to hear bits and pieces about me, so that's all the introduction I'm going to give to you right now. Because it's an odd thing to preach a sermon about oneself. It's a dangerous thing to use the power that comes with standing up in this place just to tell you about me. But, you know, telling our stories to each other is really the only way that we come to know each other, truly. It's only my second time with you, and we're slowly getting to know each other, and there's lots still to learn. But I know some things, though. As Frederick Buechner once said in his Alphabet of Grace, I know that, like me, you wake up every morning to a day that you must somehow live, to a self that you must somehow be, and to a mystery that you cannot fathom, even if only the mystery of your own life. Thus, strangers though we are, he says, at a certain level, there is nothing about either of us that can be entirely irrelevant to the other. And so we tell each other stories about our lives, and we share those things and people and ideas that give great power in our lives, which are touchstones around which we build meaning and allow us to share that meaning with each other. And so one thing you'll learn about me over the year is that I like to share stories of my life in my sermons, and I like to hear your stories in the hopes that as we live in this year together, we can come to know each other more deeply and understand what it means to live this life together and share in that mystery. So I'll start by telling you this. When I was a kid living in Kingston, Ontario, which is at the eastern end of Lake Ontario in Canada, my family had a very large vegetable garden. Now, I both loved and hated this garden. I hated it because every spring I would be set out there with a shovel and a wheelbarrow and told to clear out all the rocks. You have to understand that Kingston is nicknamed the Limestone City, and it's nicknamed that for a reason. There was lots and lots of limestone, and a lot of it was very close to the surface and managed to work its way up through the soil of our garden every year at an alarming pace. So my job was to take out what had risen over the prior year to help the garden get ready for new planting. And so we planted the garden with peppers and peas and beans and tomatoes and carrots, and we tended it. We watered it and we weeded it all spring and into the hot, humid summer. And then came the loving part. I remember, whether it's true or not, that the peppers and the carrots seemed to be ready to pick on a schedule. We were out there over a longer period of time picking a few and waiting for the rest to be ready. But the tomatoes all seemed to wait for the same day, and then they were all ripe at once, all ready to be picked on that same hot, sunny day, huge and firm and almost bursting. We picked buckets and buckets of tomatoes, it seemed, and we loved tomatoes. Loved them on sandwiches and salads, loved them sliced on a plate with a little bit of pepper or sugar or salt or nothing at all. We ate whole meals of tomatoes, often supplemented by a hamburger or the fresh sweet corn from the farmer's market, but they weren't important at all. the tomatoes were. And of course, the best way to eat a tomato, plucked right off the vine, standing in the yard, still warm from the sun, red juice running down your face. Remember that? All this eating, and still, just like the zucchinis, we still had what seemed like hundreds and hundreds of tomatoes. Too many to eat before they went soft and mealy, and so my mother, with some unwilling help from my brother and me, would prepare them and preserve them for the weeks and weeks of the year when we weren't bursting with fresh tomatoes. Now in my house that meant tomato sauce and tomato pickle. Sauce in the freezer, pickle in the cellar, and we had tangy goodness all year. And as the summer ended and September started getting colder, we made other preparations for the coming winter. We'd order and split firewood, make sure the caulking on the windows was tight, check the insulation in the attic, pull out the snow boots and coats, make sure we had everything we needed for the long, cold winter ahead, safe in case of emergency, in case of blizzard or power outage, safe in our warm house. We are blessed and we're blessed because gone were the days in the neighborhood where I grew up at least, where doing this was a necessity of life, when not preparing for winter was a death wish. But we still prepared. And we are coming to that time of year again, when winter is getting closer. In fact, we're very close to one of the balance points of the year. Officially, this is the beginning of fall, but more importantly, this coming Friday, we will pass the autumnal equinox. Now, the equinox is a moment of balance, a time of equal darkness and equal light, we say, although last night I decided, because I couldn't sleep very well, that I would go into Wikipedia and explore equinox, and it's a much more complicated thing than that. But anyway, balance, equal night, and equal day. Don't go into Wikipedia if you want to fall asleep. It's a time when many traditions ask us to look backward and celebrate the abundance and warmth and light of summer made manifest in the harvest. A time to take stock of gifts from the summer to bring into the winter. Gifts from time of plenty into time of lack. Gifts from time of peace into times of strife. Gifts of food and shelter, yes, but also gifts of love and strength, patience and reconciliation, hope and knowledge. What have we set aside to prepare for darker times? And we also look forward to that darkness, toward that darkness, to prepare. What might be coming into our lives? What do we need to get ready for? And of course, the darkness does not always announce itself ahead of time. So this is the time of year we're asked to contemplate these things. But really, each day in our lives is an equinox as we balance on the present moment, looking backward and leaning forward. Of course, some of us have not had warm summers with abundant harvests. Some of us have been denied these gifts or have had them stripped away by circumstance or active destructiveness or chance or systems of oppression. Some come to this time of year empty and fearful of the darkness, wondering how they will survive. There are people in our communities and neighborhoods who do not have enough to survive. There are people in our families. There are perhaps people in this room. Here is where, for me, it matters that we call ourselves Unitarian Universalists. Now, it doesn't matter that we're Unitarian Universalists because it makes us better or more enlightened than everyone else. It doesn't matter outwardly, really. It matters inwardly. It matters because it reminds me that by claiming the name Unitarian, I am acknowledging that we are not separate, that all things are of one substance, that we are all connected to one another at a deep level. And it matters